everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is RACHELRAE, and today it is Theory Tuesday, aka that day of the week where we talk about stuff that's weird and wonderful here on my channel with my husband, James.
Hi, everybody.
And today we are working on the same painting as last week. Wow, what a coincidence. And this is Where the Fun Never Ends by Diamond Art Club, and all the things you can see me use in this video will be linked in the video description below. But without any further ado, we're going to get into the weird and wacky. What are we talking about today?
Let's see if you can guess what we're talking about today.
Okay.
As we get into it. So, this week I started researching, and I guess I came across these two guys that live in New Mexico. Mm-hmm. They're Franklin and Dory Vigil.
Okay.
And they're a father and son duo. Mm-hmm. So there's Franklin and then Dory. Dory's kind of like middle-aged, you know?
Mm-hmm. Is this recent?
Yeah, this is right up to date.
Okay.
I think I got this from an article that's about a year or two old, and then there's one or two smaller articles as well.
Okay.
But so they live in the north of New Mexico on the Jicarilla Apache Reservation. Mm-hmm. And they've been working for years, you know, gathering up stories of stuff that happens outside the usual.
Okay.
You know? So they've noticed this kind of triangular pattern on the reservation that they live on, mm-hmm. where it's concentrated in the north, the southeast, and the west, or the southwest. Okay? So that kind of pattern, you know? Mm-hmm. And they're getting a number of different experiences, you know?
Right.
Both UFOs and Sasquatch.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they say like that even though, you know, people when they have an experience with an unknown entity, you know, be that a UFO or a Sasquatch, like that's pretty unusual. But they do say that the reptile-like aliens that accompany the Sasquatch is what really makes them stand out.
So we have a trifecta happening.
It seems so.
Okay.
It seems so.
Buckle up, Buttercup.
Yeah. So what Dory said was, and this is a direct quote, the aliens dropped the Bigfoot to do their dirty work, and then they pick them up later and drain their brain.
What?
Yeah, he's saying that the Bigfoot...
Okay, you don't have to repeat it word for word.
Yeah, I'm not going to repeat it, but I mean, let that sink in. They drain the brain. You know, they have them go down and do their dirty work.
And then they, like, erase their brain.
Yeah, that's what he's saying, like.
Okay.
Now, we're going to need to move away from that.
Oh.
Because, I mean, that got me rattled. You know, I was like, can there be something in this?
Uh-huh.
Okay? Have you ever heard of Baker Mayfield?
No.
Well, Baker Mayfield is a quarterback with the Cleveland Browns.
Okay. If you say so.
And back in March of this year, he was driving back to Texas with his wife Emily in the car, and they saw a UFO.
Oh.
And he said, like, they're driving in the car, she's in the passenger seat, you know? And she's looking on her phone, maybe she's answering a message or watching a YouTube video. You know, you're looking at your phone.
Yeah.
And he said suddenly she just looked up and his eye was drawn as well because this, like, white light just streaked across the sky, like. And he tweeted about it.
Oh.
Yeah.
All right.
So, because he's an NFL star, people are very curious.
Yeah.
And they want to know, what's this all about, Baker? You know? So they ask him, and again, this is a direct quote. I'm a firm believer in UFOs and Sasquatch. It's real. I saw it. I'm glad the Navy finally confirmed some pictures. Now everyone doesn't think I'm crazy. I believe in it. You see that bit at the start? UFOs and Sasquatch?
Yeah.
Like, did he see a Sasquatch that night?
That's what I'm wondering.
I Googled so hard.
Yeah.
I was Googling because I want to know, has he had a Sasquatch experience? I came up with nothing.
Huh.
But it had my interest piqued.
And this was a legit tweet.
He
Not
tweeted
like one of
it.
those random
Yeah, if you see the tweet, it's like
tweet-a-maker.
no, yeah. If you see the tweet, like I can probably dig it up and we can put it in the notes or whatever. Like, but he's asking people, hey, I was driving outside of this city at this time and we saw a streaking light in the sky. Has anyone else seen that? You know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think he got a couple of replies, but it's hard to say who's serious, you know?
Right.
But honestly, when he said UFOs and Sasquatch, admittedly, that's exactly why it turned up in a search I was doing. But anyway, like, that had me. I was like, I have to look into this UFO Sasquatch connection.
Okay.
So,
I'm glad that you did all the dirty work.
my journey next takes me to a lady called Carla L. Ruckert. Yeah, and Carla L. Ruckert was a librarian, like back in the early 70s.
Okay.
And she worked as a librarian, I think at like a university.
Mm-hmm.
But she only worked there for a year or two. Because she joined this meditation group run by a guy called Don Elkins. And then she basically left the library and she started working with this group. And she was kind of doing a librarian kind of job with them, you know?
Okay.
Keeping records and
stuff.
keeping, yeah, exactly, like that kind of thing. And she was acting as a, what would you call it? An archivist.
Mm-hmm.
So she was acting as an archivist and she was also keeping records of things, what they were doing, etc. You know?
Okay. Yeah.
So then in the early 80s, while she was meditating, she started channeling this character called Ra. Like R-A. Ra.
Like Egyptian god Ra?
It is exactly the Egyptian god.
Okay.
But not exactly the Egyptian god. It's the collective consciousness, as far as I understand it now. This is a wildly popular book. It's the collective consciousness of an alien, like almost hive mind sort of character.
Okay.
But it has been the god Ra.
At one stage.
Yeah, because, you know, we've already established that aliens you can telepathically chat with them.
Yeah.
So, the god Ra starts talking to her, you know? And this guy, Don Elkins, so she goes into a trance-like state.
Mm-hmm.
Don Elkins asks her questions. And then this other guy called Jim McCarthy transcribes the interview between them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that becomes the book of, the Law of One.
The Law of One.
The Law of One, yeah. And there's several books. Like, I believe like 5 volumes. So anyway, or maybe 3.
Somewhere between 3 and 5.
It's always either a trilogy or a whatever the 5 one is. So the Book of the Law has some interesting stuff, or the Law of One, sorry, has some interesting stuff to say. So in Book 1, Session 9, he asks about entities living on Earth, you know, and all this. Mm-hmm. And Ra says, one of the entities from the planet sphere you call Maldek, these entities are working in their underground complexes through a series of what you would call karmic restitutions. They dwell within your deeper underground passageways and are known to you as Bigfoot.
Hang on. Okay. I didn't think that Bigfoot would be an underground kind of character.
It deep in your deeper underground passages. Because I looked this up, like it's the entities from the planetary sphere called Maldek. And Maldek is a planet that a 19th century German astronomer proposed broke up in the early solar system and became the asteroid belt. Oh. Okay. So Bigfoot would have originally lived on that planet, I think is what they're saying, and would have been brought here. Like it's the karmic restitutions, you know? Understanding complexes through a series of what you would call karmic restitutions. So it's almost like they're being brought here to work.
To do something because of karma?
Yeah, to atone for something maybe. But
okay.
Yeah, and then they dwell in the underground. So then the Book of Law The Law of One, Book 3, Session 46 says, "You may suggest that the exploration of caves which underlie some of the western coastal mountain regions of your continent will one day offer such remains." So look in the caves around the Pacific Northwest.
Okay.
And you'll find some of the Bigfoots. In that case, the guy has actually asked Ra, a direct question about where will they ever be able to prove the Bigfoots.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah, so, I mean, it's pretty mysterious, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, like, you know, what... Okay. So they've discovered that Bigfoot is another type of star child, like an alien.
I don't know if it
according to our definition.
Yeah, that Bigfoot would be an alien, and that they're, I mean, I don't know, well, that they were brought from their planet before it was destroyed, or maybe they were responsible for destruction of their own planet or something.
Do you know much about the Bigfoot myths, though? Like, or do you know much about Bigfoot at all?
Me?
Yeah.
Just so much as I would have read about it, like, you know.
Because, like, does Bigfoot or Sasquatch or whatever come up in other countries other than the U.S.?
Yeah, I mean, there's the Yeti in Southeast Asia around Himalayas and stuff like that, isn't there? Then there's the Yowie in Australia.
Okay.
They're the only ones that come to mind now, but there must be other ones.
But they're all kind of related in that way. Yeah.
Yeah, so
they are spread out.
Yeah.
And so it could be possible.
Yeah, and I mean, like, it's hard to say. Yeah, but they're definitely. I mean, I'm pretty confident that the Yowie myth comes from indigenous Australian people, so it's not something that people have made up, you know.
Yeah. Okay, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there. I just...
No. Yeah. It's hard to say. It's hard to say. But then I started looking at... Have you ever heard of the Sierra recordings?
No.
Well, it's these recordings that were made, like, by these two guys, Al Berry and Ron Moorhead. Mm-hmm. And... it's like 1971 or 2, you know? Mm-hmm. And their friends have this hunting camp. And it's up in the Sierra Mountains, you know? And it's between Lake Tahoe and Yosemite.
Okay.
So it's just over the border from Nevada, I think. And just up in the Sierra Mountains in California, you know? Mm-hmm. So it's up there. So basically it's somewhere in that area, and they'd never revealed the location. But their friends they owned land back there, and they had been hunting on it for generations, you know? Yeah. And they came back with these weird stories about weird noises and stuff that they were hearing out there when they were in the woods. Mm-hmm. So the two guys go out there, and they bring out recording equipment, and they do a bit of hunting and all that. And they have this... I actually have pictures of this as well, so we can put some pictures of this up.
Okay.
So they're out there, and over 2 years, they record 90 minutes of what they say is Bigfoots talking to each other. You know? And there's even a guy, I think his name might be Russell's or something like that, that claims he used to be in the Navy, and, you know, he was a linguist, you know, expert or whatever in languages. And he claims that he's listened to the tapes. Mm-hmm. And that he can make out these phonemes, you know?
Really?
Yeah. So the individual constituents of language, like, he can make out that they're consistent.
There's patterns.
Yeah, exactly. There's patterns.
Punishment of this. laughing at me.
But he said that it's not a real language. It's like a proto-language, you know? Like something that a gorilla or a chimpanzee might have, you know? Where you know... But he said that it seems more complex than that. You know, where you can read someone's demeanor and you can read what's going on, and, you know, they're giving you other cues, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah,
like emotional language.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And
like
you
if you were a kid and you were trying to like pretend that you were speaking another language.
Yeah, you get it. What he's saying is that they wouldn't be able to communicate complex things, but they would definitely be able to get across simpler things. Much like we were like a troop, like you would imagine a troop of chimpanzees or bonobos or whatever would be able to do.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and so I listened to a couple of podcasts with him, you know, and since his experience at it, like he tells of one story where they had built this this kind of wooden structure against the trees, you know, and it was a shelter, but you would keep your food supplies and stuff in there, so if a bear came along, they wouldn't be able to tear it apart. It's made out of big logs, you know.
Yeah.
And I actually have a photo of that, and we can put that up as well.
Okay.
But he said that one night that they were there, they could hear the voices like out in the woods. It's easy to find this if you just type in Sierra Camp Bigfoot voices or whatever. Like, you'll find it on YouTube. There's loads of ones of it. And so they're out there. They start hearing these weird noises, you know. So they're coming closer to the camp, and they don't know what to do. So they panic and they're like, "Let's just get in the store," you know, and kind of lash the door on. So they get in the store and they like tie a bit of rope around the door or however they secure it, you know, but it's pretty secure.
Yeah.
And they said that they can just hear these footsteps like all night long. These people, big people, walking through the camp all night long, you know? They didn't really shake the thing they were in, but they were like, they didn't want to go out and look, and they could look through the slats between the logs.
Yeah.
But they couldn't really see anything, you know? It was dark out there, the fire had gone out, you know, but they could hear these footprints or footsteps. And when they went out in the night or in the morning, nothing.
No footprints.
No footprints, nothing. Their whole time there, they found, I believe, 1 or 2 footprints. At one stage, he tells this story about how he's standing there and he can hear the voice, and he goes, it doesn't feel like it's more than 10 feet away from him, but there's nothing there, you know? Then he starts telling these stories about how they would see these odd orange balls of light moving around, moving in between the trees, you know?
Oh, the good old orange balls
the
of light.
The orange balls of light. Always the orange balls of light. So they're seeing the orange balls of light, and he starts formulating this idea over time. And now he's of the opinion that the Bigfoots are some kind of interdimensional being.
Right.
Because they seem to be invisible, you know?
Right.
And they're always accompanied by very unusual phenomena. Like there's that kind of hanging fog that just hangs there. There's unusual lights, like suddenly out of nowhere, just a light will come on, you know what I mean? Out in the woods. Maybe it'll move and then it'll go out. Yeah, and he did, you know, in the podcast I was listening to, he says a lot of stuff like that. You know, one of the things he says is that anyone he's given the tapes to listen to, say that the Bigfoot's language has the same kind of syllable sounds as Japanese. That they make very similar phonemes, I guess. Is that what you call them?
I don't know. I'm not a linguist.
Yeah, no, I don't know. Yeah, so that it has very similar sounds to Japanese. So that's pretty interesting as well, isn't it?
Yeah. But how do they reckon that they're... So they just think that because they can't be seen, but that other like strange actual physical occurrences happen when they're around, that they're not actually on this plane. They're parallel or something.
That's that's what a lot of people that I read seem to be saying.
So what about the people that have seen them? Would that be considered an accident, or?
I don't know. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I've actually got something that I think will explain this next.
Okay.
But yeah, it's definitely because Ron. Just before we move away from Ron was adamant that with the amount of time he had spent out there, and he said even that when he could hear the breathing and the voice coming from 10 feet away, but he couldn't see anything. And all of that time, and they only found a few footprints.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he said it was weird ones as well, like you'd find a left footprint but no right footprint, but there's mud everywhere. So it's almost like one foot is in this dimension and the other foot is in the mud in somewhere in the Sierra Nevadas.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, do you know, when you go looking into Sasquatch, you think it's going to be all Oregon and Washington and stuff.
That's kind of what I picture, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I pictured as well. And it's not.
It's not?
I don't think so. I think that a real hotspot could actually be New Mexico.
I was about to say Sedona.
Sedona is old hat, man, like, forget about Sedona. You gotta
so last week.
You got to get yourself to, because do you remember where we were talking about last week? Sandia Mountain?
Yeah.
Sandia Mountain, right, is about 3.5 hours drive from Dulce.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
Dulce. Is that, am I saying it? Dulce?
Dulce.
Now, if you know anything about the esoteric UFO world, that's a big name, like, because that's where there's the underground base where there was a big battle fought between the Greys and the people.
We're not supposed to call them Greys anymore.
We're not supposed to call them Greys. Between our space brothers and the army.
Right. Yeah.
And we can get into that at a different time, although it's not nearly as fun or happy a story as we think,
People just want to know the truth, James.
People want to know the truth. Well, you know who knows the truth, Rachel?
Ron?
Well, I'm going to go right now to a famous channeler from New Mexico.
Oh.
2 of them, actually. I believe I might be about to discuss the presentation given at the September 2015 Psychic Sasquatch Conference in Washington.
Psychic Sasquatch?
Psychic Sasquatch. Hold on to your hat. Hold on to your hat.
The hat is already blown off.
We can tie a lot of this together. Sue Walker and White Otter are about to come.
No way.
Yes.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. If you haven't seen last week's episode, please click the little eye above and watch that first, because... What?
Yeah, they're back, and they've got some cool things to say about Sasquatch, to be honest.
Oh no.
Right? So what happened was, she said that she didn't... It's hard to make out, to be honest. I can't get a clear timeline, but at some stage she talked to Radar. You remember Radar?
Yeah.
Who flew the Delta Dawn
cigar shaped.
I think it might be Delta shaped, I think it might, one of the triangular ones. Because I've heard it called the Delta Dawn too. So I think it might be one of those ones. These might be the guys in the triangular spaceships.
Oh, okay.
So the crack here is, right,
Sasquatch.
She asked Radar if he knew the Sasquatches, and he said, Sasquatches? Know them? They owe me $10.
Shut up.
No, for real though, he said that he did know them, and that they'd known them for many years, and that they were really cool,
Okay.
But what he said was...
What a great bunch of lads.
Yeah.
And ladies.
He had some interesting... He said that the Sasquatches had been around for about 20 million years.
If it's a female Sasquatch, is it called a Sasquatch?
Sasquatch. Should I be referring to them as Sasquai?
I don't know. Is it
Sasquatch.
Latin
I like
or
Sasquatch.
Greek?
Yeah. And like a kid would be a Sasquirt. A Sasquirt. So
Sasquatch. Okay. Ow.
so radar, a hot shot pilot like clues her in on Sasquatches, right?
Right.
And they've been around 20 million years. They live on our planet, and they refer to themselves as the wood bean. Like
The would have been.
WOODBEN. Like we're human beings. They're wood beans.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. But wood bean isn't just a name for a Sasquatch. It's any fauna in the woods that live in the woods.
Like a wood creature.
Yeah, so they don't make a differentiation.
Okay.
Like they don't have that duality like I'm a Sasquatch, that's the woods.
I'm more
That's a
intelligent.
deer. Yeah, exactly. They're on the same level with everyone else, right?
Right.
Sasquatches are a member of the Star Nation.
Well, that seems to be obvious now.
Yeah, and well, that's what it's all being tied together. They're a member of the Star Nation, right?
Right.
And Sue says that they have speech, but it's really rudimentary speech, you know?
Yeah.
And that they can communicate through their speech on about the level, a more developed level than, say, a bonobo or a chimpanzee. Okay? But it's telepathically. That's how they really communicate.
Okay. So why? Interesting. Okay, go on.
And she asked, well, why, how come we've got all this technology and everything? How come we're not, at the top level, you know? And then Radar said, oh, well, you see, they keep themselves, like they've learned a long, long time ago how to keep themselves in spiritual, emotional, and psychic balance with the environment around them. Like they're always in this balance. And that's why they've achieved civilization level 0. And that's when you get allowed into the Star Nations. We're at like 5 or 6 now. We got to get that way down. Okay? What's the story? Oh yeah, she then says that Radar told her that lots of alien civilizations like to travel with the Sasquatch, and that because the Sasquatch is so cool, like they're a great bunch of guys to hang out with, and we don't have. I think the impression is that we don't have the telepathy for them to talk to us. Do you know what I mean?
I'm surprised the Sue doesn't have it.
Oh no! I would think that if you use the telepathy 101 primer, that you could develop your telepathy. And she actually says that in part of the thing as well.
Oh.
But there's so much interesting information about the Sasquatch.
I think it's too late for us though.
Yeah, the aliens, they really like them and they love to travel with them because they're a cool bunch of guys. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like they're just really nice guys. Like, and there's great vibes off them. Like.
But what's with the yelling and the hooting and hollering and that kind of thing?
Do you know the way when a dog starts barking at you or whatever? You know, it's like it's more afraid than you are. Do you know what I mean? I think that's it. But look, the Star Nations like to travel with the Sasquatches as well because they're very adaptable and they really love exploring and kind of like setting up home in new terrain. Now, some people might say that's colonizing, but not if you're using a Sasquatch. Like, they don't go and colonize, they just go and set up a little camp and chill out for a bit, you know? Mm-hmm. Feel the vibes, balance out their spiritual, emotional, and psychic needs.
Right.
So she says as well that, like, in North America, Sasquatches, they're not really, they've been seen living with other creatures, other star creatures, you know? Because people have witnessed them with like giant canines, multidimensional humans, lizard people, and forest folk.
Really?
That kind of covers all the bases, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you got everything except maybe dragons or something.
Well, I think like the lizard people are from the Draco star thing, right?
But they're not dragons.
No, well, not quite. But when I saw lizardmen, I was like, man, I'm on to something hot here. Like, because this is what Dory Vigo was talking about. That the Sasquatches are seen often with the lizardmen.
Oh, right.
So I thought I was onto something hot there. And then when they said multidimensional humans, that's exactly what Ron Moorhouse head was talking about. You know, that they're hanging out with multidimensional people. Now, the Sasquatches are incredibly evolved, like psychically.
Okay.
So they can read your mind, and they're never going to show themselves because, like, they're just trying to raise a family out in the woods and stuff. You know, people coming up in their neighborhood causing trouble. They just want to be left alone, like. So they've got to do what's right for their people. You know.
Okay.
So they can use their psychic powers to cloud your mind. First of all, they'll reach in and they'll try and see if you've got good intentions or bad intentions, you know? Yeah. And there's no point in hiding it because they're going to go straight. Like, sometimes even you might think you've got good intentions, but they can see that your intentions are not good. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you're like, oh, it'd be great if I just pull them into a lab to get them tested. They'd love that, you know? We'd find out so much. There could be, like, penicillin hiding in their fur or whatever, you know? So they can reach into your mind, they'll read how good you are, and then sometimes they can cloud your mind. And you might end up with that old classic, missing time. Oh, yeah. You can also end up getting headaches for about 72 hours afterwards. You end up getting a piercing headache, and that could be a sign that you've been probed by a Bigfoot.
Oh dear. They probe? Oh, psychically.
They're psychically probing you. Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah. They're really wary of people, you know? And that's because Bigfoot society is based on balance with their environment and balance with themselves and balance with their community.
Okay.
Like, no Bigfoot takes more than they need. And everybody's needs are looked after, you know? Be that food or shelter, community, you know? Because Bigfoots aren't materialistic, you know?
No.
They live in balance. And
they're just looking for love.
Yeah, and they're always trying to remain in balance. That's how they've managed to hide out in the woods for 20 million years. They may have even been hiding out on the planet Malak before that, you know? So, yeah, that's it. The other interesting thing, so that kind of explains it, like the Japanese sounding vowels that aren't quite a language but have a couple of different sounds, you know? How they seem to be able to disappear, you know? The connection to aliens, the lizard people. There's one other thing that she explains. And it's, you know, the strange lights we were talking about?
Yeah. What
it is that Bigfoots, they have, with the aliens, they have these cloaking technologies.
Okay.
I want to say interdimensional, but I don't think she meant interdimensional. So what it is that the doors, you know, when the strange lights appear? Well, you know the way it's all dark everywhere? And then someone opens the door and the light shines out of the door?
Yeah.
That's what it is. The light suddenly appearing in the woods and stuff. And it seems to be emanating from somewhere else, you know? So all of these unusual lights are from doors being opened in cloaked spaceships and stuff. Yeah. Yeah. There's another interesting thing as well in the law of one. It's a really, really long quote, and it was hard to parse it out, you know? But they seem to be saying, Ra, this space hive mind, seem to be saying that the Bigfoots are left here, you know, to act as a genetic reservoir. so that if things go completely wrong, there'll still be some sentient sapien, I guess, you know? It was hard to make out what she was saying, or what Ra was saying.
Right.
But then, Sue said something kind of familiar. That maybe, you know, in the case of something catastrophic happening, that they would be there to help us and save us, like, kind of stuff.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's really what I've managed to glean from my research and review of the literature.
So, Bigfoot isn't just Bigfoot.
No, it looks like he occurs with a lot of very unusual phenomena. Are you wondering if there's anybody else that backs up Sue in saying that Bigfoot is psychic?
Yeah, I'd like to know more about that.
Yeah, well, I would, just to reiterate, I got this from a September 2015 Psychic Sasquatch conference in Washington. And if you look into that, you will find a lot of information about how Bigfoot communicates psychically.
It's amazing.
It really is. I think that part of the idea as well is that people would disappear, and you know what I mean, that Bigfoot can cloud your mind. And there is, when you read people's things of their experiences with Bigfoot, they'll often say like, oh, and then the Bigfoot walked down the path and then it just disappeared.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, they do say that a lot.
Yeah. So that's why a lot of these people, that's definitely why Ron Moorhead is saying that Bigfoot's interdimensional. There are a surprising amount of people saying that Bigfoot is an interdimensional creature in league with the aliens. You know? Well, let's not go. They're in league with our space brothers.
Yeah. But not like working together, they just happen to be...
Do you know, I find it hard to believe that Bigfoot would be nefarious. Do you know what I mean? Like without a doubt, like you're on Bigfoot's turf and you're carrying a hunting rifle and you're close to his family or whatever. Any Bigfooted.
But couldn't he just
Bigfoot.
Open like a door and like get out? Like, why does he have to make all these scary noises? And are you they do the wood knocking as well, where they knock on trees with rocks. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he's trying to scare you off, isn't it? I mean, if I heard a bear, what would you do? You'd get out the lids of the trash can and start banging them together or whatever, wouldn't you?
But you would think that after all this time, they would know that we have guns.
They do. And I'll refer you to the fact that they can literally read your intentions. It's at this. I watched a few of the psychic Sasquatch things. A recurring theme is that the Sasquatch knows your intentions. And I mean, like, Sasquatch knows your intentions better than you know your intentions.
Right.
You know? And there was another guy, I can't remember his name. Well, I could try and murder it, like, but I'm not going to try. But this guy seemed to be saying that the reason that people aren't having more communication with Bigfoot is that they're trying to meet him physically face to face in the woods, you know? Mm-hmm. And that's fine to do, but you've got to purify yourself before you go out there.
Oh, so that's the key.
Yeah, you definitely don't carry a rifle, you know? Just go out there with the best of intentions and you can meet a Bigfoot. Or better still, talk to the Bigfoot telepathically.
Well, I thought you were about to say get mauled by a bear.
Get mauled by a bear, yeah.
You know. All on a Sunday afternoon.
But that's it. Do you know, there's the implication as well, if we could just care about each other and provide for people that are in need, we could also be a level 0 civilization and join the Star Nations.
I just really don't see the connection between Bigfoot and ending homelessness. I mean, Is that what Bigfoot people are thinking about? Is that where these people at the psychic convention are they talking about this kind of stuff? Like
What do you mean? What kind of specifically, like?
trying to end world problems.
They
Are they
say
leaving it to the aliens?
no. I'll be honest with you, no. Well, but you know what? They say that Bigfoot is concerned about this.
Oh.
But I'd like to think that a little part of them is concerned about it too.
Well, maybe they should bring that up at their next meeting. If you're watching.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know. What do you think? What's going on in your head? Or why did you want to concentrate on?
I was surprised at the amount of stuff, and lately
The Bigfoot community is huge, though.
it's huge. Yeah.
And especially last year, the amount of stuff you'd find.
Oh, really? Do you think so?
Yeah. Do you remember how many documentaries you watched? On
Oh
Bigfoot?
yeah, I watched a load of them. Yeah, I did. Yeah, you're definitely right. Yeah, I mean the Bigfoot guys are fun, you know, because like there was one guy and he was talking about it like, and he said, oh well, he goes like people say, oh you're silly hunting for Bigfoot. He goes, but like at the end of the day, like if Bigfoot isn't really out there, doesn't matter. And he goes, the worst that's happened is I spent a lot of time camping in the woods, you know.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, that's 100% accurate, you know? But I don't know. I mean, like, what do you think about Bigfoot? Do you think there is a Bigfoot?
It's hard to say because, there's always been legends and stuff. And there's a lot of stuff that, seems totally unreal.
Yeah.
But, I don't know if there's a large, hairy, interdimensional being that's come from a planet that got destroyed and turned into our asteroid belt, and then they had nowhere else to go except the psychic realm, and then somehow they end up here. But I do think that there are things that go bump in the night, especially other human beings.
Yeah.
And that scary human beings are a real thing, and that it's easier to blame something that's not human.
Definitely, yeah. I would definitely be more afraid of people than Sasquatches, you know.
Yeah.
I think it's, in a lot of ways, I think for me an interdimensional Sasquatch seems more likely than a Sasquatch, you know?
Explain.
It just seems more likely that if it does exist, the reason they have found absolutely zero evidence, hard evidence, after all this time, is that it is an interdimensional being and a member of the Star Nation. Do you know what I mean? Because they would have found something, like every time they tested the reputed piece of Yeti skull cap, and it turned out to be a bear, I think, or a goat or something.
Yeah.
They tested, I think, as recently as a few years ago, there was 32 samples that were supposed to be DNA or remains of a Yeti, you know,
right.
be it wool or a bit of fur or whatever. And I think they tested something like 28 of them, and they managed to get results out of, I don't know, 14 or 18 or something like that.
Okay.
So guess how many of them turned out to be unknown DNA?
None.
Yeah, no. Yeah. And guess what kind of stuff was masquerading as Bigfoot,
Goats and
Sasquatch,
bears and things that live in the mountains.
Yeah, pretty much exactly what you would think. Yeah. It's like even the foots don't look like when they get the
foots.
Well, do you know what I mean? The feets. Feetses. When they get the cast of the feetses, they don't really look like a foot that an animal would walk on or a person would walk on or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
I think definitely it'll turn out they'll catch one and it'll be like Chewbacca. It'll be, what's the name of that? A Wookiee. It'll be a Wookiee.
It'll be a Wookiee. Yeah.
Just on his holidays.
Does that guy named Wookiee have anything to say about Sasquatch? Or is that just a coincidence?
I don't know if it's a coincidence. You would have to say he's called after the Wookiee, though, wouldn't you?
What was the name of that podcast?
Spooky Action.
Spooky Action.
Yeah, September 2018. Because that's when the really scary stuff started to happen. Like that time he heard the noise and he went in next door and there was a tube of tomato paste on the floor.
Super scary.
Or he heard another noise in the pantry and the Pop-Tarts. Oh man.
I was actually thinking about that earlier and I was like, how would you fake someone stealing a Pop-Tart in a Ziploc bag? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't think it
How
would
could
be.
you-
I don't think it would be as challenging as you think if it's outside the back of the house in a tree. You just,
Anyway, we're getting off topic.
we're getting off topic.
Sorry.
So I don't know. I mean, I definitely think there's a very strong possibility that Bigfoot is in league with the aliens. I would tend to lean towards Bigfoot is one of the Star Nation, and you know,
But did they choose the Star Nation life or did it choose them?
it chose them. The Star Nation life chose them. You know, I think in a lot of ways they're different from the other Star Nations. You know, like they got there through peace, love, and harmony. You know, rather than developing an economy and you know, creating all of the trappings of society. Like, you know.
Yeah. I think I'm gonna make a T-shirt now. The Star Nation life chose me.
The Star Nation life chose me. Yeah. What was your one for the female Sasquatch?
Sasquatch.
Sasquatch.
And you said it's
Sasquirt. Sasquirt.
That's just too much. I'm sorry. No, I mean I'd like to expound more on my feelings about American myths and legends and like otherworldly figures, but unfortunately my experience is not so funny and pleasant, and we were trying to keep it upbeat. So
Why have you had
I haven't
spooky
personally
experience?
I haven't had a spooky experience like that, but
Okay.
I was warned as a child, and I think a lot of people were too.
Really?
Yeah.
Is there a sense that they're real or whatever?
Oh yeah, there's definitely like a sense of malevolence that comes from the wilderness.
Oh really?
And it's not just things that you know about. You know, it's not just cougars and stuff. It's
Yeah.
scary stuff. So, and I don't really want to talk scary stuff because that's not what people are here for.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if you'd be interested in a more chilling kind of episode, will you let us know in a comment? Because we know a lot of creepy stuff too.
Yeah.
It's not as fun as the Sasquatches though.
You love those
And the
Sasquatches.
Sasquirts.
Sasquirts.
Can you imagine like jumping through portals as a young Sasquatch?
Yeah.
Like, hey, you can't get me.
Yeah. Cut that out, kids.
You're not supposed to let them see you.
We spent so much money on portals.
You know how long it takes them to charge?
Yeah.
Go do the dishes.
When we really need a portal, there'd be no portals.
What's the Sasquatch for turn off the immersion?
I don't know. I think that's probably it.
Yeah.
Who left this portal on? And then you're all at the beach and the portal won't start and you've got to walk the whole way
Oh
home.
no, I was going to say all the way back to the car park.
No.
No car park.
They don't have cars.
Not yet.
No, not yet. No. I don't think they will either. I think we'll probably get rid of cars and then we'll become one of the Star Nations. That's the way it works.
Maybe. I mean, that could be one of the things. Clean up the oceans and get rid of cars.
Oh, we got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, it's going to take a while. But we'll know by the end of, what is it, August?
Oh, with Sue, yeah, she said in autumn 2021.
Autumn, okay.
Yeah, so I don't know, does that kind of start in September?
September, yeah.
Okay, cool.
We'll keep our eyes peeled.
I don't know. I think we can get these peas, but I don't know if I'm going to plant some more if it's all going to be over by September.
Yeah, it might be just too much work.
Right.
Right, so, well, thank you all so much for joining us today. Thank you, James, for all of your hard work and research.
Yeah.
And enlightening us on the ways of the Squatch.
The ways of the Squatch, yeah.
If you have any comments, concerns, questions, or queries, please leave them down in the comment section below, and we will see you all next time. Thank you. Bye!